What's up, guys? Today we've got a video. And, yeah. Let's get into it. The stability map. Yeah, first up, you want to, change the Netherlands. So, basically, all of these countries that I think that would just be a better place to put it, like a better center, I'll do that, and then I'll also, then do the other stuff after that. Alright, so I've recentered a few of it. Now we've got to do some new countries. First up, this UAEan country. I'm going to put them on yellow. I'm also going to change the, Ottomans. Is that... Okay, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to change the Turks, because they're slowly getting better. We don't need that one anymore. And the final one I want to do, that was a terrible circle, is Australia. They're going to be like all of their, surrounding neighbours, where they're going to be a light green. And, let's go on 8, fix this up. There's only one country that I actually have to do the, ideology for, and that's Australia, which they're going to be democracy, just like their fellow neighbours. Now, I know they're not even in, the Macau Defensive League, like these guys, I think that's what it's called. So surely they should be monarchs, but France was a monarch, and they didn't really think that went well. And they're just really close to their neighbours, which is why they have similar, stability and ideology. Just like to say, this plague map, there is no longer any plague. Now, we're actually going to see another country introduce states. And this was basically part of... Wait, actually, I need to turn on that map. Yeah, this was basically part of the peace treaty from before, after the Diamond versus Triangle Alliance. Basically, they were like, hey, you know what? You need to introduce states at some point soon. In which they did. Alright, so we see 3 states here. This one mainly the dark red religion. This one mainly the lighter dark red religion. And that one is, just Morocco plus, the, darker pink religion. And, you'll notice that this state has actually been extended, and that state, there's a bit of land that's Moroccan but isn't there. That's because I'm actually going to turn off the state layer now. We see that those 3 provinces kind of get bought out by the Italian country, Rome, if you will. They actually are going to not buy all of the provinces, though. Just, a majority of it. As they're actually going to separate this province into 2 and combine it with that one. So, yeah, these are the new borders. We're actually going to see a war break out. And, I will actually need to add some more, stuff to the, I've made a new layer just to add some extra bits and bobs. And that's just going to be these 3 major, cities. As we see that Somalia wants to link up with the Atlantic, and they're going to invade Iberia to achieve this. Because they know that the chances of them beating Iberia, and hopefully not having any retaliation from England and the Netherlands, because they just came out of a big war, is better than their chances of beating Israel. Because they're like, hey, Rome. They would be like, hey, Rome, do you want to fight Israel? But, Rome also just got out of a war, so the chances are they probably wouldn't. And then Israel might get rid of this news, and then they might invade Somalia, and Israel's stronger than Somalia. And then they might get Egypt, because they're allies now, which actually I haven't done, but, yeah. Yeah, so if we go on here, we see that, what shape haven't I used? Rhombus. We see the Rhombus Alliance form. That is not a rhombus. How do you that? Yeah, the Rhombus Alliance. And we also see this defensive pact wear off. But that's fine, because they're going to join the Rhombus Alliance. so it's all fine anyway. But yeah, Somalia starts an invasion. At first, they go for the south, but I'm like, why are we going for the south? Let's just take the major city. Let's take this. So we see that Somalia starts taking, like, some land as they go up and take all of this, like, Israeli land on the coast on the border. But eventually Iberian troops start coming in as they fight back. And they push back this, like, front line. So Somalia starts going other methods. But they were actually sadly mistaken, as we see that an influx of South African troops, not even like pure English troops, but like they just order everyone, like basically the military that's already in some South Africa, like, yeah, just go for it, fight them. As they take that coast immediately, as these troops, like, there was no Somali troops guarding here, so they quickly take, like, all of that lake. But eventually the Somali troops flood in, and they are stronger than the South African troops by themselves. But that's when the Netherlands start sending their own, like, mercenaries, like, kind of, like, you know, they have people here, and they're, like, they ship them to England, in which then England ships some of their own troops, along with the Netherlands ones, into here, which starts up a bit of a front line again, as it's kind of even. But then we see that a landing happens on Madagascar by the two, because England has the best navy at this point, and all of the islands are just taken, because Somalia doesn't really focus much on navy. Which, back to Somalia, they start a spearhead, and it goes pretty successful at first, but then Iberia's like, you gotta cut them off. And they do, but then they do their own encirclement from there, and take over all of those troops, which wasn't very good. Then Somalia kind of breaks out, they break through there, and they break through there, dividing the country into three. Not a country, just a colony into three. And at this point, it isn't going too good for Iberia, as all of this land is taken. And Somalia, like, eventually closes in on the capital. Well, actually the colony's capital, takes this island. And this is when they start trying to go for peace. They're like, hey, we got what we wanted. Let's start going for peace. But England is like, no. So they keep pushing up, along with the Dutch. And they take this lake where they station some of their forces. And we see that there's a bit of pushback by Somalian troops. But this lake is eventually taken over fully. As then we see that major city is taken over. And that's when they officially sign peace. But not before. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Iberia just abandons their colony. Like, they're just like, we don't want any of that. So, they no longer have that colony, which means that we go on the state map. We can remove this state, but actually, I'll remove it afterwards, because I actually might need it for the peace tree. So, yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so, in this peace treaty, first up, I'll turn on the states later in a bit. First up, a lot of provinces were changed to have straight lines, thanks to England, and, you know, the Europeans, obviously, there was straight lines. But, yeah, they expanded from, like this or so, into that. So England definitely won a lot, but they did struggle a lot. The Dutch got all of these islands, along with a coastal colony here. Somalia, if we, down on this map, we see that they got all of, like, this, which is actually pretty good. And, we see that this country, which is an old tribal country, forms in the south. And, speaking of which, we need to set up a new capital for them. And their capital is going to be right here, like, in this circle, like, in the center of their entire, like, country. That's going to be the capital. Yeah. Oh, yeah, also England got a tiny bit of Iberian's colony. So now we can remove this state. And with this, like, new state, actually with this new state, we see some more trade, like, posts being set up. I will turn on the county map for this. So one is set up in South Africa, which goes along, like, the coast. And the goal of this is to, like, you know, establish a trading route with this Somalian, like, major city now, because before they didn't have any, like, stuff like that. But also to get this, like, tribal team kind of, like, available to trade. So, yeah, I can turn that off now. Yeah, we see that the tribal nation can trade now. And also just, they want to set up something with the Dutch colony. So that's all nice. If we go on the political map, this tribal nation is actually a puppet to the Dutch. It's kind of like what I kind of think was Egypt back in, like, the 1900s early, I'll say. I don't know. Basically, they're their own independent state, but they're also kind of Dutch-controlled. It's just part of, like, a larger kind of Dutch colony. Kinda. I don't know. It's just how it is. And for their, like, ideology, it's just going to be the same as the Dutch and the English and the Somalians, which is a monarchy, which actually is just the Dutch monarchy. They have the same. Oh yeah, you could use this. They will actually be added to the Triangle Alliance. Thing is, I'm going to do all this because basically they're just a Dutch colony, but they are technically an independent state, so they do have all this stuff. And this land is very poor, and it's very, because, like, it has no coastline, so it's very poor, and, like, the Somali people have kind of been integrated, so it's not really the same tribal nation. And also, it's not even tribal anymore. It's just a dark purple team. So I'd actually say, actually no, yellow ain't gonna even cut it. I'd say that, like, their state right now, yeah, we're gonna bring back an old orange colour, because that's really what represents their state. It's not, like, Civil War level. It's not like red where it's, like, Civil War is happening, but, like, it's not very good. That was my main thing, but I do got some other small things I'm gonna do, and there was 2 things I was gonna do, but I think they would, like, make the episode much longer, and I kind of want a short episode for this one. So I'll split them into 2 episodes. But for now, we're going to see that this United India is going to expand, like, their territorial reach a bit. Expanding into a greater India. And we also see that, like, North China's like, hey, you know what, we got a lot of just empty land here. I think it's claiming time. So before they do any of this, they make sure to discover these islands up here. And also just, like, basically lead it right to the tip there. As we also see the Japanese do a bit more exploring. And we're actually going to see that the Japanese expand their colony a bit. Getting it to, like, over here. Where no one really lives, but they want to get the resources. But yeah, basically no one lives here. So these Mongol North Chinese just rampage through it. They start by just expanding their OG land, but then they just start, like, rampaging through, destroying any civilization that there is. You know, they take a bit of this Siberian land, they dart across, you know, they, like, claim these islands even though no one actually has been to there, and they're not going to use them. They're just like, yeah, they're ours. And then everyone's like, okay, I don't want them anyway. And Okay, not that far. Yeah, they just kind of bolt way outwards, and other countries are like, whoa, no. But it doesn't matter anyway. Okay, that's good. It doesn't matter anyway, because, like, then this has barely made them stronger. It's probably moved them, like, one spot up the rankings. And their claims aren't even universally owned. Like, that Siberian land, Japan disputes it, and everyone else is like, okay. And then after this, like, this has taken a few years. But, like, at first people find the islands, but, like, okay, you can't just claim all the land. So they put a stop to it. No, we don't want the one brush. But we actually do see a kind of, like, treaty formed with India, where they divide up all of this remaining land, and a bit of Caspia. So, I'll show that in a bit. So with this division, we see that Caspia gets a small amount of land. And this is because they're kind of having some internal issues. They don't want to make it worse. But they still do want to expand. India, I'd say, probably gets the second most. I'd say, actually, they get the majority. But yeah, if we look at it, they get a lot of land as they become the, first superpower, as they are the strongest country in the world, with just all of this land. Because they were already pretty strong before now, but now they're, like, big, dummy strong. And North China, who is no longer even, Chinese majority. I'm still going to call them North China. But they're barely any of their land is actually Chinese. All of their valuable land is Chinese, but barely any of their land is. They become massive. Now, it is going to suck to have to do all these provinces, but I will. Sadly. But let's get into the final, thing of this video. Alright, and the thing that the internal issues finally build up, and eventually this big region breaks away. All of this massive region. Now, don't know why I said that colour. The Lime team is an oligarchy. And basically, when they, killed the monarch of Ukraine and then replaced it with an oligarch, which no one knows about apart from the Green team. When they did this, it was a very divided thing. A lot of the population didn't want to do it, but specifically there's 9 oligarchs. 5 of them wanted to, 4 didn't. The majority ruled, and they did. And let's look at who did and didn't, because this is all the 4 that didn't, this is the 5 that did. And now they're in a civil war. First up, 1 and 2 are both in the Lime team, but 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all on the Caspian. What? No, that's Caspia. Are on the dark green team, and then that leaves 7, 8, and 9 all to be there. So this is a pretty big war, and it's fairly even, but what you're forgetting is that these guys are more warmongerer. They've got the strongest, ones, the ones with the most influence, and the most military experience. So when this rebellion, pops up, they're going to get a bit of land as they, spread out. But this is quickly, followed up by them losing more than they actually gained. Now, where these oligarchs resign is this city, which is, their most populated city, aside from the capital, which actually I don't have the capital map on. So if they get that, then that's when it's over. But for now, we just see that all of, this weird line gets taken over as they start their own spearhead, but this is quickly pushed back. And they're actually doing some good strides. But, then Crimea is hey, you know what? Also, I'm going to alternate between Crimea and Ukraine. Hey, you know what? The population's going to do it, because they're, it was probably Caspia. Even though they don't have definitive proof, they're, it probably was. So they start their own like invasion force. And it's actually going pretty well. And just to add to this terribleness, Kokistan is also like, we want our old land. And Caspia is just falling. Like, Israel invades a bit before getting threatened by other countries, like, we'll invade you if you do this. But yeah, then, the purple team darts across, takes a bit of UAE land, but they don't actually do that. I was just making it look better, sure. As they start their own invasion, Caspia quickly responds to this invasion, as they really hate, like, the purple team. And they actually take the capital. But they are kind of getting clobbered on all sides. And now if we go over to Rome, seeing this, their civilians are inspired. And we see the return of an older country. As we actually see that it's Crete who first get these people. And North Africa's like, you can go, because they're in no situation for a war right now. As we actually need the state map on, we see that all of this, like, Greek state comes back because they want to, like, get revenge, and they want to become a state again. Preferably they'd get, like, all of this land, all of their old lands, but that probably won't happen. So they just want to be a country again, and they want to be united again. And if we look at the religion map, we see that their religion has been completely eradicated, and they're like, no, we want to bring our people back. So some people who were hiding from, like, the genocides that were happening have come back to fight against Rome. At first they start doing good, but then Rome starts kind of pushing them back. And that's when another region pops up. We see that this Tunisian team pops up, and they're like, yeah, we want independence as well. And that's not even the end of it. Because after that, we also see that some French rebel groups pop up in southern France, as they all quickly link up their efforts and make a united front line against Rome. Rome is not doing too hot here, and they push the French rebels back a bit, taking away all of their Mediterranean coast, as they also quickly go for Tunisia. But this is when they do a fatal error. By themselves, they could probably take down the three groups. But that's when they decide to invade North Africa. They take this coast and they send a lot of resources to North Africa. And, Germany is kind of sending help, but they don't really want to do this. And this has three big effects. First of all, we see that Israel starts to invade Rome, as they know that if they let North Africa get taken, they kind of want North Africa, and they also just don't like Rome's imperialism. The second thing that happens is it like a 6? No. 7? No. 8? Yes. We see that Australia actually leaves the Diamond Alliance, because they don't like how imperialistic this alliance is, so they leave. And the third fatal flaw is that the Turks join against Rome. Not because they want any land, but because back when the Ottoman Empire was a thing, in the first early days, we, saw... I'm pretty sure that they had all of Rome, or at least they had this bit, but then Rome broke away, as the two sons were divided. But they don't want that happening again, so they send resources to Greece, who starts going upwards. Tunisia has been eradicated, that group, and North Africa is struggling. But Israel goes in, as they actually cut up northwards. They try to fight back against France, but this is when the French get even more powerful, as they reclaim their old capital as they start to march into Germany, as everyone starts rebelling against Rome and Germany. It isn't looking good for them. And then we see that Rome goes on a rampage in Greece, taking over all of this land of that one country that unified with them, and just taking massive land. And that means that these four join in. That's not good. So now I'm gonna do a alliance map with attackers and defenders, just so I can clarify it. First up, actually I'm gonna do defenders first, because Rome and Germany are defenders here. They're on the same side. And there's going to be, blue circles. And then for the attackers, we'll have red circles. So this is Greece, the rebellion, France in their rebellion, Israel, North Africa, although they didn't even invade first, the Turks, and all of the previous former Ottoman states, including this one, which because they're puppet state, Nordia also comes in. This is a massive coalition of anti-expansionism plus Israel. And we see, to help France get their independence, we see some semi allies, which is Iberia, England, the Netherlands, and the Dutch colony. All of these guys are here against them. And then also, just for a reminder, next time against the green team, I'm going to just be using black for the ones who are against the lime team, and then grey for actual lime team. So the rebel group is against the lime team. The purple team, Israel, Caucasus, Crimea are all against, are all against Caspia, 64, and Caspia stands alone, although they do have one partner state, which I'm going to put on 150. And this is actually Somalia, because they don't like Caspia, but they just want to get back at the Israelis, so that's what they're doing here. Because even though Israel isn't expanding, they're still sending troops, and Somalia's nuh-uh, and then shooting these, which causes increased tension between the two. And yeah, that is going to end today's video. Hope you all enjoyed it, and goodbye.